Welcome to Look Movie Recaps. Today I'm explaining a 2022 action and thriller movie called Commando by Michael Jai White. Keep spoilers alert. We start in the middle of a shootout between the Drug Enforcement Agency and the drug cartel in one of their drug hideouts.
Throw down your weapon! Throw down your weapon! We need him alive.
After the botched mission, James Baker, who was the leader of the mission, is sent home because of his condition considering the incidents that occurred in the mission, as they found out he was not fit for duty. He was traumatized by his own act, hence being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. When he reached home, his two daughters Jennifer and Natalie welcomed him with passion, and later his wife Lisa. On the other hand, in the Max prison, we see an inmate called Johnny, seated with his fellows. Three other inmates approach him wanting to challenge him into a fight. He doesn't want to get in any trouble because he is soon getting released on parole, but regardless has no choice because they had a weapon with them. He beats them up and moves away. Later, the warden calls him to discuss his parole hearing. John, being an ex-US Marine who served his country, his parole was granted and emphasized not to break any of the parole rules. Elsewhere, while at dinner with his family, James gets flashbacks of what happened on his last mission. He sees the dead bodies of the civilians he shot looking at him, and he screams. This scared his family. Lisa tells their daughters to excuse them so as to talk to his husband alone. When they left, she asks him if he is alright. He says he is fine. She then tells him to tell her what happened at his last mission, but James doesn't want to talk about anything. Later, their daughters prepared a surprise for them. They booked them a night at San Rose Cabins. They are really pleased to be traveling together and spending some quality time at San Rose Cabins. They ask Jennifer where she got all that money, but she doesn't mention. On the other hand, Johnny is a free man. He is waiting outside the prison for his crew to give him a ride. When they arrive, he is so happy to see his young brother. On their way, Johnny tells them that he doesn't want to get involved in any messy dealings that may see him go back to jail. They then ask him about the money. Johnny tells them to pass by their old house. On a closer look of the house, we see it's James's house, and learn that it used to be Johnny's house. After a mega heist of $3 million, Johnny hid the money in his house. Additionally, we discover that of all his colleagues with whom he carried out the heist with, are dead, and he is the only one who is still living. He later gives them the map of where he hid the money in the house and tells them to retrieve it with a valuable ring of his late wife. At the Baker's house, Natalie finds Jennifer with huge amounts of cash and asks her where he got the money from. She tells her that she found it. Natalie wants to tell her parents about the money, but Jennifer refuses her. She gave her a bundle, but she refused and didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah, you guessed it, that's John's money. Johnny reaches his base and he is happy with what they did with the place. They went to celebrate his freedom. Johnny briefs them on how he wanted them to retrieve the cash. He told them not to make it chaotic but rather smart. Shortly, they arrived at the house and Dominic starts formulating their invasion plan by going round the house to find out how many people are inside. While he is doing so, James and his wife are trying to get along. She wants to know what happened to him on his last mission, because when he came back, she didn't recognize him. He was a different man from the man she married, but James assures her that he is still the same and still doesn't tell her what happened. When Dominic comes back to his fellows, he tells them that they are 4 people inside, so it will be a piece of cake for them, and warns them to leave the 2 girls to him. They tell him that Johnny wants it smart, so they will wait until they are all gone and they will go get the money with no one harmed. Back to the Bakers. While James is sleeping with his wife, he continues to get visions of the incident of his last mission. He starts dream walking. He stands up, holds his gun and walks downstairs. Coincidentally, Johnny's thugs are also outside pimping through the window. While James is still dream walking, he points a gun to the window they are at and he shoots. They run away and James wakes up so scared. He finds out he just shot a gun in his home with his family inside. His all family is awake and worried about him. Mom tells her daughters to get back to their rooms and she tells him to hand over the gun to her, which he does. She tells him he needs help. Back to Dominic and his team. They are also scared and have to figure out how they will get their money out of James's house. Back to James. He accepts he needs help and his wife promises to be there all the way until he is back to normal. The next day, James calls his friend Sebastian from the DEA. He tells him his situation and tells him he needs him around because he may hurt his own family because of his situation. His friend is more than happy to help. Then James starts his online therapy sessions with Dr. Burke. In their conversation, James wants to start differentiating from what's real and what's not. Dr. Burke tells him to focus on his six senses. Elsewhere, Johnny meets up with an old friend who is now the area sheriff. He asks him for a favor and promises him 2% of $3 million if he pulls it right, which he accepts. On the other hand, James is approached by an officer at home summoning him at the police station. He goes at the station and he is handed an arrest warrant by the sheriff. When he asks him what the arrest warrant is for, he informs him that it's connected to his last mission. When James looks closer to the arrest warrant, he finds out it's a fake one because there is no judge's signature. He tells him that he doesn't know what he is trying to pull, but the next time he wants him, he should contact his superiors, and he moved out. When he went back home, he began preparing for the trip to San Rose Cabins with his wife. Johnny's men as well are on the roadside preparing to attack as soon as James and the wife leave. James is able to see one of the goons who is pretending to work on his car as they are departing. Immediately they went. Dominic tells his fellow to attack right away, but he is told to wait because they might have forgotten something. In the evening, Natalie observes her younger sister Jennifer getting ready for a house party, and her friends are coming over because her parents are away. Natalie is dissatisfied with her act. She doesn't want to be part of it, so she went and locked herself in her room. On the outside, Johnny's goons are preparing to attack. A truck arrives with a bunch of teenagers looking to be Jennifer's friends. Back to James and Lisa while on their trip. James starts experiencing flashbacks of his last mission. He can't differentiate reality and what's in his mind. So he starts practicing what his therapist trained him. His wife notices it and asks him again what happened in his last mission. James asks her if she is sure she wants to know. He tells her to pull over, and then he starts narrating to her that his colleagues called him after they had finished exchanging gunfire to show him the blood that was streaming after they had eliminated all the bad guys. When the room from where the blood was emanating was opened, he saw a mom and her two daughters shot dead by him unknowingly during the blaze. When he thinks back, he blames himself because it was him who pulled the trigger. He admits to seeing them frequently, hence the post-traumatic stress disorder he is dealing with at a time. Lisa tells him that he shouldn't blame himself because it was an accident and assures him to be with him until he is back to normal. He then apologizes for not telling her in time. Back at the house, while Natalie is cleaning up her broken bed light, she is also able to find a box full of money and a ring with a picture inside. She then looks up on the name she found on the ring. She discovers information linking to a robbery that took place many years ago, but also indicates that all the culprits are dead. She thought the money had no owner. She opened her computer and hid the box inside, and she went outside to process everything that's happening. As she was seated down, Sebastian came over and found her outside. He notices a house party staged inside the house, but Natalie tells him it's Jennifer's doing. Then later she tells him she wanted to show him something. They went inside the house and she opens her computer and she showed him the box she discovered earlier. He asks her where she got all that money and she explains to him. She later told him that Jennifer also found some money too. She showed him that the only remaining person that can claim ownership of the money was imprisoned for 15 years and others are dead. Sebastian tells her not to jump to conclusions but rather keep the money while he figures out what to do. Back to Johnny's boys, Dominic is tired of waiting, so he takes some drugs so he can prepare for the attack. After he is high, he leads his fellows to retrieve Johnny's money. Inside, Sebastian and Natalie are looking for Jennifer regarding the money she has. She finds her in her room sleeping with a guy and tells her she also found something in her room, but Jennifer isn't interested in her stories. She pushes her away. Natalie then, while confused, she starts ringing her dad, but she can't reach him, probably because of network. Outside, the thugs put on face masks and start heading towards the house. While on the way, Dominic notices teenagers in the back of the car having pleasure. He pulls the boy out and they put him on gunpoint. The girl runs but Dominic shoots her. Later, while one of the teenagers is out to pee, he is shot by Dominic. They eventually enter inside. Dominic's still on the loose. He shoots one girl and the guy right away. They tie all the others, including Sebastian. Natalie runs and hides under the bed, and then she phones his dad again, but still he couldn't hear her well, so she left a voicemail. While she was still on the phone, Dominic found her and pulled her out of the bed. Shortly when James got network on his phone, he received the voicemail that Natalie had left crying for help, telling him to go rescue them. James at first thought it's one of his PTSD relapses, but when she asked his wife, she confirms that their kids might be in danger. He tried to phone Sebastian as soon as possible, but he wasn't answering. They then decided to go home to rescue their daughters. Back at the house, they have started collecting the money following Johnny's map to where he had hidden it. After looking thoroughly, They realized that Johnny's ring was missing and the money was 100 grand short. Johnny's brother politely asked Jennifer to tell him where the rest of the money and the ring are, but she didn't know where the rest of the money is. Sebastian is able to untie himself. He shoves Johnny's brother down, beats him up and shoots him in the head. Sebastian was also hit right away and tied again. They ringed Johnny telling him of the death of his brother. He couldn't believe it, so he went to gather some of his old biker colleagues to go and retrieve his money, at the same time exact revenge on his brother's killer. When they reached the house, Johnny couldn't believe seeing his brother dead. With a lot of anger, he stabbed Sebastian countless times and killed him. Later, Johnny puts Natalie on gunpoint and tells her to give him the box that had a ring in it. Natalie removed her computer and gave them the box. Upon reaching, James tells Lisa to stay in the car, so he can go get their daughters. Moving like a commando, he starts eliminating the thugs. He beats up the ones he found outside and gets a gun from them. Another one appears when he was looking at his phone. They engage each other and he defeated him. When Dominic is outside to check on the others, he rather finds dead bodies outside. After Johnny discovers that things are out of hand now, he calls the sheriff for assistance. James enters the house and he manages to rescue Jennifer. She tells him that they have Natalie and that Sebastian was killed by Johnny. He tells her to run to Lisa in the car. He then continued to rescue Natalie. He continues going inside. He finds another goon and he engages him. He trips him down and then shoots him instantly. Another one appears. He shoots him but keeps on dodging the bullets until he is near him. They start a combat fight with him, but he doesn't get any hard time eliminating him as well. Dominic finds his fellow shot dead. James comes from behind him and squeezes him and he shoots him with his own gun. He then finds another thug holding Natalie hostage and pointing a gun at her. He shoots him in the head and he saves his daughter. He tells her to run to his mom as well, and then he started looking for their boss. He opens the door where Johnny is. He throws a dead body of his colleague. Johnny shoots it thinking it's James, but now James has him on gunpoint. He tells him to throw his gun. Shooting him would be a quick death for him. After all he had pulled out, he threw the gun away and decided to face him man to man. Johnny is no match to James. He beats him and falls down. He starts punching him too hard, but when he is almost finishing him, the sheriff arrives and he points a gun at him. Johnny tells the sheriff to shoot him. But James manages to convince the sheriff that after all this is done, they can share the money amongst themselves rather than waiting for Johnny to give him 2% as he had promised. The sheriff shoots and kills Johnny on spot. Lisa came from behind the sheriff and she shoots him too. The film ends. If you've watched this far, thank you.